first of all, thank to the organizers who have invited me to talk about something on computer vision. So I will talk about computer vision and its applications, and then I will also touch upon some of the areas which are related to computer vision and its application to education. As I believe, as a part of School of Education, you will be looking for applications in that context. So, first of all, if you look at this image, right, that we all know that visual communication, particularly pictures, convey a lot of information, right? It is said that a picture is worth more than 10,000 words, right? So, if I ask you about this picture, so what will you tell me? Anybody? Einstein, Albert Einstein, right? Theory of relativity, right? So, just by looking at the picture, you have so much information instantly, right? You know about the person, you also probably are trying to infer what this person is doing, right? So, this is what we have as a result of human vision. Right? We look at the image or we look at the information and we instantly recognize it, we instantly infer from this and convey it, right? So, this is what we understand. Now, the challenge here is, so what we are talking today is computer vision, right? So, something which we want computer also to handle, what we are able to handle, right? So, just to put these things, let us say at analogy, so if we want to understand what computer vision is, so let us first look at what human vision does. So, human vision is about discovering information from images, what is present in the scene and where it is almost instantly. In a similar way, we would like that in computer vision, the sensor which actually gives the picture or takes the picture, which is most of the time linked to computer, and then the computer interprets images of a real scene to obtain information useful for different tasks, right. So, what we are basically saying is that what human vision does, if we can also do through computer vision, right. So, that is sort of a understanding we have. So, in a very simplistic way, we can draw parallel between the two. So, you have the image, right, the scene, and in the human vision you have the sensing which is coming through your eyes, right, and then the information gets processed in the brain, and then there is an interpretation which suggests that there is a person and the person is teaching and the person is actually Albert Einstein, right. So, this is how we process it. What we are trying to see is that if the sensor is replaced by a camera, right, and this brain is replaced by a computer, then can we do the similar kind of processing to find out that there is a person, the person is teaching and the person is Albert Einstein, right. So, that is what the challenge is, right. So, it is not that easy, right. It is not that easy, but as you probably are noticing in most of the real life applications, some of the things can be done through computer, right, processing of these images and be able to find out what these images contain. So, before we actually get into this aspect of whether this whole process is possible or not, or to what extent it is possible, let me just try to give you certain basics, because see, any information which computer needs to process, it has to process in the manner it can understand, right. That is the first thing. So in order to be able to put that information which computer can understand, we need to also understand when there is a formation of an image, what goes on, right? When I put a camera and take a picture, what is that happens which gives me the picture, right? And then when we feed that picture or an image to the computer, then how this computer is going to process it. So see, dealing with images is very old, right? We have been dealing with images for a very long time. So the first thing which I am going to talk just briefly is what is the way the images get formed in a camera, right? So that makes us to actually look at some of the basics of camera. So I am not going to put any mathematical formula here, but I think some of you who have done mathematics in high school or science in high school would remember certain things. For instance, light travels in straight line. Wonderful, right? So if you imagine a camera to be a very small hole, right, like a pin, like that, and you know that light travels in a straight line, then the rays which are coming through this object, and if I put something here like a film, you would see that there is an image formed of this object here, right? The only difference is that this image is inverted, right? But you can force this part to be in front, right, and then the image is going to be upright, right? So this small thing of putting just a little hole like a pin actually gives me an image. So we can model our camera just by as a pinhole. So for the image to form, a very simple model which we call it as pinhole camera can be adopted, right? There are some limitations to it, but this is still acceptable, right? So, and in fact, this goes back long back in the history. This is just to illustrate you in the 15th century how people were imagining that the image is getting formed, right? So this is what is showing. The other thing which we also understand, that when I take a picture and I see that picture, typically I know that the picture has been taken of an environment which is three-dimensional, right? When you look at an image, you say actually the objects or the scene is three-dimensional, right? What do we mean by three dimensions? That it would have and a height or a depth, right? Now, when you look at the image, right? If you look at this image, for instance, right? What makes you feel that this is a sphere or not a circle? What do you observe? You observe variation in the light, right? Variation in the illumination, isn't it? So, or shading, okay? That gives you the impression or the cue that there exists a depth in the object, right? So, when we talk about images which are taken of the environment which is three-dimensional, you also see the cues or the information about the depth or the three-dimensional part of it, right? So, these are the two aspects which make us understand that the image which is acquired or taken of a scene which is three-dimensional, when now if have to be processed by a computer, these are the things which need to be processed, right? Now, so in a very simple form, see just a illustration, you have some illumination or the light, right? There is some object and this is your imaging device which is like pinhole, and you get this image, right? And now, as I told you earlier, that this image is to be processed by a computer, right? So, what do we know about computer? Computer processes what kind of information? Digital information, right? Which is typically zeros and ones, right? Binary information, correct? So, now if I have a information which is not binary, which is not digital, the first thing I need to do is make it digital, right? Okay. So, for that I have this sort of a grid which is imposed, which is a process of discretization. That means you are going to make this representation in discrete form, right? And also the intensity, which is changing from one point to the other, has to be discretized, right? So now, for instance, if I ask you, so this is sort of another representation of the same thing. So if basically I ask you that if this point is to be rendered only black or white, right? Black and white, that's what we say, which is either 0 or 1, right? So the information which is being carried would require how much information? 1 bit, right? 1 bit, it can be 0 or it can be 1, right? So similarly, if I increase the number of bits, the amount of information is going to be more, right? So if I say 3 bits, then I may have 8 different possibilities and so on, right? So basically what we are saying is that this continuous variation which I have got of intensity or the illumination would need to be digitized in terms of how many bits I assign to represent that intensity, right? So that's what is happening here, okay? So you have first these cells, which is a discretization in space, and then you have this intensity change, which is the discretization in intensity. Now this information is possible to be given to the computer, which it can understand, okay? So in another way, if I just see the picture is nothing but collection of these dots, right, or a matrix, if you are familiar with that, and the values which I get there is the intensity, right? So each dot is what is called as a pixel. So you understand a pixel, right? Each one of you now carry a cell phone or a smartphone, right, which allows you to take pictures of how many megapixels you have camera? 4 megapixels or 8 megapixels or 12 megapixels. What does that mean? If you have a camera of 4 MP, 4 dots, 4 right, 4 megapixels, right? What does that mean?
No, sorry, not 4. I mean 1 pixel means 1 dot per frame.
Right, and then so many of those you have. 4 mega means you have 4 into 10 raised to the power 6, right? Okay, so that means those many pixels, right? That's the resolution of your image, okay? So that's what they are. They're nothing but these dots, right? Lots of them, okay? And plus you have the information in color or the intensity. Okay. Now the other way to look at it is that you can think of that instead of those intensity values which we were saying, you can think that this is actually a height, right? So you can represent this as a function. That function is nothing but the height, right? So this image can be seen as this, right? Okay. So now what are we saying? That this particular image, right, which you instantly recognized, in fact that's what is being seen by the computer, which is nothing but some numbers, right? That is where comes the challenge, because computer is seeing these numbers, and from these numbers you want the computer to tell that it's Einstein giving you the course of or the tutorial of relativity. It's a hard job, right? But to an extent it can do, okay, and that's what we are going to examine a little bit. Now of course we understand that there are limitations of doing that, okay, but there are also limitations to our human vision, right? For instance, if you take this example, so what do you say between these two if I look at this and this? different shades, right? Okay, this seems to be lighter than this. The first one is lighter than the other, right? Okay, so there is some difference, that's what you are noticing. This, I mean, these examples you may be aware of, right? For instance, if you look at these, so this looks shorter than this, right? Same, you know that, but it looks shorter, isn't it? So your human vision suggests that it is shorter, right? So now just to contrast, all of these are actually of the same shape. Okay, just because they were put into a different contrast background, you were actually noticing a different shade, right? But they are exactly the same shade, and they are also of exactly same length. Okay, so now what are we saying? We are saying that human vision has some limitations of such kinds. But if you feed this into a computer, it will not make mistake. It will give you that this was exactly the same shade, and it will also give you that the length of the two arrows were exactly the same. So there are situations where computer can beat human vision, right? So this is what we need to understand. Okay, so now if I look at the discipline of computer vision, and then we are going to talk about some problems and applications. So in fact, this is a very interdisciplinary area, and it is linked to engineering, linked to physics, linked to biology, linked to computer science, maths. And in fact, it has a very close interaction. Some of it, I think, in this workshop you have already heard about. Robotics, machine learning. So today, everybody talks about machine learning, information retrieval, speech processing, neuroscience, and so on. So in fact, it's very closely related to that. So basically, what we are saying is that computer vision is an interdisciplinary area by itself and interacts with many areas. So now what I am going to do is demonstrate some of the problems and applications where computer vision can be applied, and we will see how it performs. Okay, so one of the problems which is nowadays very commonly handled through computer vision is this object detection, right? So here there is an illustration of detecting faces in an image. So given an image, you want to detect faces in the image. Okay, so in fact, all your smartphones today have this face detector, right? You must have already noticed it, isn't it? So, so how does it work? Well, see, from those numbers which I showed you in the beginning, corresponding to the Einstein, you would actually process those numbers, which will indicate to you different intensity. It will also indicate to you that how the adjacent intensities are related. So basically, you are going to perform what we call it as features, right? Global and local features, which are in terms of the intensity or edges or the boundaries. That can help you figure out the variations and the difference, and that is where you will say that there is probably a face in the image. Okay. So, and in fact, there is a deliberate attempt to show that it can make mistakes, right? So you have this particular box which is suggesting that there is a face there, which there isn't any, right? But nowadays, of course, the performance of these face detectors has considerably improved, and you would seldom find any mistake there, right? So this is just to tell you that this is what you have in your smartphone these days, right? In fact, you may also have seen the Snapchat face filters. Have you? In your face, you can attach different kinds of filters, add different kinds of artifacts on the face, right? So that is also related to detecting the face and then adding information on the top. Okay. Similarly, you have vehicle detection, right? So face detection, if I go back, what could be the application? You detect a face, right? And then what? Yeah.
Then the criminals can be easily identified if they are around the shops like jewelry shops or banks and all.
Okay.
Or if they are moving.
Right. So, in fact, you have added another aspect of it which I had not talked about is it's not only detection but it's also recognition, right? So, you face detection followed by face recognition, right? So that you can identify the person, right? So, that have lots of applications, right? In fact, in the academic settings, you can use that as attendance, right?
Attendance in the class.
So, just take a picture and then no roll call, right. So, you just feed that into the computer and that is what happens. So, in fact, we are using a similar kind of system at IIT. So, where the attendance is not done through roll call, but it is actually done through face recognition, okay. And there are many other places. By the way, it's not 100% accurate yet, but it's pretty close, 95%, 96%, right. So, that's an application, and in fact, there are several of applications. And of course, there is a downside to it, right. So, for instance, you may have read a news recently about San Francisco banning face recognition, okay, because what they think is that it is intrusion in your privacy, okay. So, by collecting the data of a particular person and then trying to track where the person is, what is he doing or she is doing, you are actually intruding into the privacy. So, they are very sensitive to these matters, right. So, they have banned face recognition. Okay. Now, similarly, we also have this vehicle detection, right. So, similar to what you would do in face detection, for that matter any object detection, you are going to come up with some features of these objects, right. So, here what you are trying to do, you are trying to identify the different kinds of vehicles, right. So, there are three-wheelers, cars, trucks and so on, okay. So, that also presumably have lots of application, right. You can actually figure out your traffic pattern, right, and accordingly you can design the monitoring of that traffic, okay. And in addition to this, you can add features which can do checking of the violation of traffic rules, right. So, if somebody is crossing the red light or crossing a lane and so on and so forth, you can detect that, okay. So, here again basically you are trying to find out the features of, let us say, a car and associate those features and to the object and then detect whether a car exists or not, okay. So, this is actually something which is being done in one of the startup which we had started in IIT about 15 years back, and they are working on these traffic monitoring systems. Okay, so now I will just give you a very small sort of an overview of how these features are detected and what do we mean by them, okay. So, if you look at this region, right, and this is the window which is actually moving around. So, what you basically find out that there is a flat region and there is no change when I move that little window. In this case, when you move, there is a change, right, there is a boundary. So, that is what we mean by edge, no change along the edge direction, but across the edge. So, there is no change when you move like this, but there is a change when you move like this, right. So, that is an edge, okay. So, that is a feature. Now, if you look at, so you have a corner, right. So, significant change in all directions, okay. So, with this you are basically able to identify whether there is an edge whether there is a flat region or whether there is a corner, because those are important cues for you to figure out the different aspects of the object, right. Now similarly, if you are given this scene, then these are the features which you see marked here, indicating the information about, for instance, these corners or the lines which get formed, right. Here the lines which get formed, here also these are the edges, right, which are formed here. Okay. In this case, you see the boundaries of the flower in different sizes. So basically, what are we trying to do is we extract this information, right, which is in the form of features, and when we aggregate that, then we can classify a particular image of a certain type. Okay. So these features are important. Okay. So next, just to tell you about the applications, these are some other applications which you probably are familiar, right. So this is the fingerprint, which is a biometric. This is iris, right. This is also a biometric. Face I already mentioned, and you also have signatures when you can identify the person. So in fact, they are all included in your Aadhaar, right. So this is something you may have already provided that. Okay. So again, if you look at, for instance, fingerprints, right. So what do you see? You see certain kinds of patterns there, right. So these patterns are ridges or minutiae, which actually tell you how the two ridges meet, right. For instance, this, right. So these are the ridges, and these are certain kinds of features which are distinctive from one fingerprint to the other fingerprint. Okay, because ultimately, what are you trying to do with these fingerprints? You are going to identify a person. That means the fingerprint itself is unique, right. My fingerprint is going to be different from your fingerprint. Okay. And that is happening through these kinds of features which are there embedded in the fingerprint. Okay. So in fact, fingerprint also these days is very commonly used. In many cases, you don't require a password, you just give the fingerprint, you are able to log in, right. And many other places you see that. Okay. So you know about this. So this was an image which was taken by a photographer called McCurry from US in I think early 1980s, 1984 or so. Okay, when there was this invasion of Soviet in Afghanistan. So he took this picture, right? And then, so she was in one of the camps in Pakistan. And then later on they wanted to find out where that person has gone. Okay. So after 18 years or so, he took another picture and then identified the person through iris. Right. So iris was used for detecting that it is the same person after 18 years. So that actually made a big news at that time, right. So what we are saying is that it can actually work over time, right. It can work even when you age, some of the biometrics, right, not all, but definitely some of them. Okay. Now this is another kind of applications where you are basically trying to identify the facial expressions, right. So this is probably relevant to those who study psychology, right, where they want to figure out different kinds of expressions. And in fact, this can also be used now in the context of education, because these days there is a lot of curiosity of the measurement of engagement, right, how students are engaged in a class. So if you find a student kind of disgusted, right, you can find from the facial expressions of the student, okay, and say that student is disgusted. Okay. Of course, there is a rider of privacy, but that's what you can do. So this is another interesting application you have, where there is a codification which is done through what is called as facial action coding system, where when you look at, for instance, the expression of surprise, right? So you see that the eyebrows are raised, the jaw is down. Okay, so these are indicating to you some of the atomic actions which are happening on face, which you can measure, right? And then you correlate with the same kind of features I was mentioning about the image, because ultimately what are you doing? You're just giving the image and let the computer figure out. Okay. And in fact, these days you have interesting cameras, even smartphone have this provision that it will select automatically when the person is smiling and take that as a picture. So you don't have to alert the person to say smile, right? So the person is doing all kinds of things, and when the smile comes, the picture is taken. Okay. Now, so what we are doing is we are basically moving on to the different kinds of applications. So this is another sort of applications where in a scene you want to figure out what are the different objects which are there, right? So for instance, you want to find out there is a mountain, there is a building, there are people, and so on. Okay. So here what you are doing is you are identifying or detecting objects and doing the categorization of that. Okay. This is also a known application, right, which is optical character recognition, which makes you recognize the numbers or the digits. Okay. So as one of the applications could be that license plate reading system, where you have a license plate with these numbers and alphabets, and you want to actually find out this license plate number. Right. So the way it gets processed is that first of all it will find out where is the license plate, okay, and then it's going to crop that portion. I mean, I'm talking in terms of how the computer is going to handle it. So this is the region of interest for processing the license plate number. Now within that you do some sort of a pre-processing to take out the background of it. So you get this, and then you demark each of the individual letters or digits, right, which gives you this. And now you identify these numbers and the alphabets individually. So this is 4, this is Y, this is C, and so on, and then you concatenate them to come up with the license plate number. Okay. And this of course has lots of applications, and these days in fact you have even within India they have started using this for the purpose of detecting the violation and giving the challans electronically, right. In the Western world it is very common, right. So these license plate reading systems exist, and automatically they detect if you have done anything, the challan comes to your home, right. Okay. So, and in fact this is also a possible application, that you detect the license plate number and then you allow the vehicle to pass, or you allow or you don't allow the vehicle to pass, right. So this is also developed in one of our startups, which is called Vehant Technologies, and they are doing this as a product. It also has applications in the medical area, right. So you are familiar with many of the modalities which are used for medical diagnosis, right. So for instance, this is X-ray, this is your CT images, and this is some sort of three-dimensional imaging done to construct the heart. Okay. So you can see through the details of it. So now of course these images are for the purpose of clinicians to diagnose any abnormality, but you can also do through computer aided detection, where when you give these images to computer, then they will figure out whether there is any abnormality in that image or not. So, for instance, if you want to trying to detect any tumor growth or any such abnormality, then that can be detected by computers. Okay. So, another example is these fMRI images, which are the functional magnetic resonance imaging, where you are not only detecting the anomalies or anything which is there in the image, but also you are basically detecting the activities, right. So, there is a detection of activity which is basically colored here. So, different parts are colored here. So, when you see faces, there is a certain type of response which is being taken here. When you see a house, there is a different kind of response which you see. So, it is basically trying to figure out under what conditions, what part of the brain gets activated, and that is what is you are observing. Okay, so, the other kind of application is this assistive technology. So, we know that those who are visually impaired, right, those who cannot see or can see not as good as the sighted people, if we can provide some assistance to them for enhancing or aiding to their vision. So, here what is done is that if you take a camera and put it on your glass, right, so camera becomes like an eye, right. So, they take the image, process that image, and then do as we do through our eyes. Okay. So, this has been developed in one of the companies called Orcam, right, which they have developed as a product. So, let me show you the small video for that.
At this party, every name is bold. It wasn't clear which stood taller, the Corinthian columns of.
So, what you see is that there was some gesture which was done, which zoomed in, right. So, this paper thing came closer, right, and then this is the text which appears, and then there is a processing like OCR, right. You are going to understand the letters and the words, and then it is going to read those out in audio, right. That is what happens.
The New York State Supreme Court or the towering figures of New York society who mingled beneath them at the kickoff to the 12th annual Tribeca Film Festival.
There is an audio here. थोड़ा सा वॉल्यूम बढ़ाएंगे.
At this point, every name was bold. It wasn't clear which stood taller, the Corinthian columns of the New York State Supreme Court or the towering figures
Okay,
of
that's
New
okay.
York society who mingled beneath them at the kickoff to the.
Anyway, so you get the idea, right. Basically what is being done is through the camera you are capturing the image, processing it using like OCR and reading that out in the form of audio. Okay. All right. So, you must have heard about these days driverless cars, right. So, computer vision plays enormous role in that. Okay. So, I mean I am personally not an advocate of driverless car, particularly in India, right. But I am actually okay with assistive cars, right, where you can get help from technology. Okay. So, this is actually showing some aspects that camera is placed in different parts here, there, and there, right, and so that it can help you in terms of doing the right kind of driving. So what are the things we can do with this? We can, for instance, if somebody is driving it, we can detect the vehicles or any object which is coming in front. We can also detect the lanes, right? Well, if we bother that much, because it depends, right? So basically that can help us avoiding the collision, or we can figure out whether we are departing the lanes or so on. So therefore, we can actually get lots of hints if there is anything wrong going on. Okay, so instead of autonomous, I would call assistive driving is what we need to. So let me just run through another sort of a video here. So here, somebody is driving and you see that it's detecting these vehicles and these, and in fact it can also determine the speed, right? And then it can also find out these zebra crossings, pedestrians and so on. So all that is very, very helpful when you are driving. And in fact, there is another side to it. In fact, many of you who actually drive must have noticed that as a feature, that it can actually detect if the driver is drowsy. Have you seen that? So what happens is if somebody is driving a car, then you tend to drowse if the route is boring, right? And that's dangerous. Okay, so there is a camera there which captures the driver and also the eyes, and then if the driver is drowsing, it raises an alert. Okay, so it's a nice feature. So again, that's through computer vision. Okay, now this is something you must have seen. Those of you who are familiar with cricket and see IPL or whatever kinds of matches. So this is all done through computer vision, right? Sometimes you may agree, sometimes you may not agree, but the detection and the whole processing is done through computer vision. Okay. Now there is another kind of application which is related to photography, right? So you all, I believe, do photography. So which is called computational photography, right? So in fact, you must have seen these kinds of things also in your smartphones. So here there is an example of, for instance, changing the background of your picture to this, right? So that's also, so how would you do it? What must be going on? Photo editor, but what will that photo editor do? How? Say it again. So see, if I have to do this, you appreciate that I have to separate this out from the background, right? So I'll have to separate this so-called foreground, right, which is the picture, from the background. Okay, only then I can replace this background from this, right? So this is what will be done through computer vision. How do you separate this part from this part? What? Cropping, yes, but cropping will make you only select a region which is rectangular, right? Have you done cropping? So what does cropping do? You select this and it gives you one square or a rectangle window, right? It doesn't separate this person.
Sir, but in Adobe we can do it this.
Yeah, Adobe can do it, but I want to ask you, how does Adobe do? So basically we are trying to segment, right, or separate this part from this part, right? And that's done through computer vision, because what is it going to say? Okay, I will actually crop along these lines. If you just say crop, that means that's what is happening, right? And also this part. Okay, so there I am actually saying that this belongs to the hair part of the object, right, which I have to identify. Okay, and then I can put this background on the top. Okay, so another example, this, right. So there is this sort of a building, you took a picture of this, and for some reason you don't want this to appear, right. In fact, this is not a very good example. Generally what will happen is that there is a person standing here, right. Sometimes what happens, you take a picture and somebody comes in front, and you did not want that to happen, right. So you would want to remove that person because you were interested in that scene, not in that person, right. So something similar. So think that this is a person and you wanted to eliminate this. So you eliminated and got this. Okay. So this is again through processing of the image. Okay. So which is actually called in-painting, right. Why are we calling in-painting? Because think that I can mark this thing and remove it, right, just the way we did it in the last example. So I can remove this part, but once I remove this, how do I fill this? I am going to fill this information only from the information within the image, right, which exists inside. Well, that's why I am calling it that as in-painting, right. I am not taking color from out and putting it. I am getting that information from the image and then filling it. So this is another example. This is also very common these days. Let's say you take, multiple instances of a similar setting, okay, and what you really want is that everybody is seeing in front, and more or less the expressions are good. Okay. So in this case, for instance, this part, right, this is the part of this guy which you had here, right, and similarly there are other people who actually have better expression in some, for instance this guy, right, is turning around, whereas here it is in front, right. So what are you doing? Again separating out into different parts and then taking those parts which are the best, right, and putting them together. Okay. So that's why we are calling computational photography, right. This picture you never took. This picture you never took, right. You took these pictures and you actually make out of those pictures this picture, right, or this, right. So this is another example where you want to change the tone of the picture, right. You may have taken a picture which is showing you dark, right, and you change that tone. And in fact, there is another application where you actually want to colorize your images. So those days which you don't have to face anymore, right. In the past there used to be only black and white pictures, no color. Okay. So if you have those pictures in the past and you want to colorize, but you don't have that picture, right, mind it, what you have is a similar kind of a setting, right. From this picture you actually take help and get the information of the color which you can use to put it here and get this, right. So this is also in line with what you may have heard about machine learning. You heard about machine learning? What does machine learning do? Huh? Right. So basically there is this word learning, right. What do we mean by learning? I am going to learn something from somewhere, right. So here there is an example. I am learning about colors, right, to put it there. And how do I get that information? By giving an example. Machine learning is all about that. you give lots of examples, you learn from those examples, and then generate what you want, right, in that setting. So, this is an example. So, instead of using one single example, typically in machine learning you would need or want thousands of examples, right, so that you have a well representation of your context. Okay. So, this is another similar kind of example, right. So, this is a pair which is telling you that this image is changed to this, right. Given this pair, you give this image and figure out what would this change to, right. This change to this you are giving as an input. You give another image, this transformation which has happened here would now be carried out on this, and you will get this. So, this is again learning, right. So, now if you give lots of examples, then you do machine learning, or nowadays what we call it as deep learning, right. Deep learning requires even more data, right. But the basic idea is this. Okay. All right. So,